Hi, you've joined me in my tackle room today where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the PB Inter float range. The PB Inter float range was created by Preston Innovations for use on commercial waters really. That was the primary objective when we set out to look at developing a new range of floats. They've been an established range of floats now within the UK market for a few years, and they're really popular with a lot of top anglers. The reason that we looked to designing these floats was we wanted a float that was strong, robust, but more importantly gave everybody a choice. So there was a range of floats there was a bit of everything to suit everybody. So by that I mean everybody's different with floats. I like a certain type of pattern. It doesn't mean that you're going to like the same type of pattern, but I do find that a lot of the same patterns seem to come up, and there is some more popular ones that people prefer. I'm going to run you through my choice on the PB Inter float range and see if that suits with what you want to do, or you can decide yourself what type of floats you want to use. So the float I'm going to start with is the PB Inter 2. Now the PB Inter 2 is probably the most traditional type of shape float there is. It's that rugby ball pattern shaped float that's very popular, works in all sorts of conditions on all sorts of venues. What I found is, at first this float was designed with sort of commercial waters in mind, maybe deeper lakes, but actually I use it everywhere. I use it on rivers, I use it on canals, I use it on all sorts of fishing, and it's my sort of go-to float. Personally, I like the Inter 2 because it's got a carbon stem. There's a thick plastic bristle. I think that's really important. The paint we use on our floats is very visible. So when we paint the plastic bristle, it stands out really well, and I think that's really important. Personally, I'm not a fan of hollow tips. I think a hollow tip in this size would be a lot more buoyant than what this tip is. So there's a lot of sensitivity within this tip yet I've still got the visual aspect. So for me, the solid plastic tip is great. One thing I do like about these floats is that I set them up in two different sizes, and I say sizes of line. So for example, I set a range of these floats up on 017 Powerline. I know that those floats I can use for a lot of my commercial fishing. I can use hook lengths down to probably 013 Powerline comfortably, maybe even 011, but really 013, 015, even an 017 hook length I can use on a rig made up to 017 line. So that's going to cover me in a lot of my fishing. They come in sizes from 0.3 up to 2.5 gram. So I've got a tray of rigs with 017 Powerline, PB Inter 2, 0.3 to 2.5 gram. That does cover most of my commercial fishing. The other set of rigs I do is I do the same set of floats but on 0.13 Powerline, which means that I can then fish maybe 0.10 or 0.09 diameter hook lengths. So when it's a bit colder, or I want to fish with casters, or I want to fish with worms, for silverfish and roach, I can still use this pattern of float. It's a pattern of float that I've really come to trust and believe in, and because I've found a pattern that I'm really confident in, then I like to use it for as much of my fishing as I can. So any lakes, commercials, or rivers, anything like that, having a set on 013 and a set on 017, 0.3, 2.5 gram all the way through, I've got a full range of floats that I can use. Now some people prefer wire stems to carbon stems. Personally, I prefer a carbon stem wherever I can, because I feel that a wire stem can deform, get bent out of shape, and actually if you choose the right size float, you will have stability in your float. A wire stem can often be a little bit misleading because the wire will give you stability in the float, but maybe underneath the water you're not really sure what's going on. I can read a carbon stem float quite well. However, the PB Inter 3 has got a wire stem float. It's exactly the same body, exactly the same bristle, but the stem is different, it's wire. So if you prefer a wire stem, then maybe look at the PB Inter 3. Very good float, works the same as a PB Inter 2, but just with a wire stem. The other range of floats that I set up within the PB Inter range are the PB Inter 1s. Now, these are very similar to the popular shanty shaped float. Very slim body on the float, very sensitive, very delicate floats. thinner plastic bristle on this one. I like the thin plastic bristle. You know, it's very sensitive, I can see it well, and it's going to work well for me. But because I've got the PB into 2s set up on 0.13 and 0.17, one thing that I do with these is I set them up on 0.11 Powerline. And sometimes in the winter I might make a range up on say 0.09 Powerline. Normally 0.11 Powerline is enough really for anything. But there I can use hook lengths down to 0.8, 0.9, everything's very balanced, I can use things very well. I can use a hook length of 0.11 if I need to step it up, but mainly I've got this float so I can use it with lighter baits such as maggots, casters, maybe 4mm expanders if I want to do a bit of delicate pellet fishing or something like that. We also do these in a PB into 4, which is again exactly the same float, but it's got a wire stem. So it's the same principle. These can be good again. I often use the wire stem version of these in the 0.2, 0.3 if I want a lighter flow to maybe use with pellet fishing. But to be honest, I try to use the PB into 1s as much as I can because they've got the carbon stem. The final float I use within the PB into range are the PB into 7s. Now these are a really underestimated float. Fantastic little short float for fishing next to islands or fishing on the far bank of snake lakes. I use them with a wire stem. I know that I've chosen carbon stems in the other floats, but in this particular shape of float, the wire stem is very short and very thick, which makes it very strong. So often when I'm going to fish with, say, 412s, 414s up against an island, I've got a lot of stability. I don't know about you, but when I'm fishing in shallow water against snake lakes, I find that there can often be a lot of tow and movement at that area. Because the lakes are narrow and the wind's blowing, that wire stem gives me that stability. So they're fantastic for using on snake lakes or up to islands in those sort of depths. Again, we've got a very short plastic bristle, very visible. The short bristle for me is great when I'm fishing against islands. I'm fishing in shallow water. I want the float to set immediately and then be ready to go under. The shape's perfect, slightly almost in between the two shapes of float I've shown you before, but the shape is perfect for that sort of fishing. And they're really the 3 types of float that I use for out of this range. And that's covered for me for most of my commercial fishing. The only thing it hasn't really covered is shallow fishing. So I'd use a different type of float for shallow fishing. But any time I'm fishing on the bottom or just off bottom, in the margins, up against islands, or anywhere in open water, PB into range really does cover everything that I need in my fishing.